Hello YouTube, I am Torstein from Cinema Terror, and yet again I've grabbed a forgotten piece of cinema from the 90s to review, and this time it is the low-budget, shot-on-video slasher thriller called Zipperface. In Zipperface we follow Lisa Ryder, a young, ambitious female detective. In fact, she's the first and only female detective on this police force. To say that she has had a hard time in this male-chauvinistic world would be an understatement.
I don't like women being called chicks, babes, or broads.
What about bimbo? It's always been a personal favorite of mine.
I believe it.
Hey, will you guys cool it?
Still, she has been able to strive at her job, and this has put her in a position where she is given the important case of hunting down a serial killer who has a lust for prostitutes that are willing to do bondage. That's pretty much it. Zipperface is a police procedure thriller that have a very basic plot. I guess the stick that was meant to separate it from other films was the S&M bondage element, but it doesn't go deep into exploring that world at all. The film does however have a surprisingly clever whodunit factor to it, as it does introduce several potential suspects over the investigation, and all of them comes off as being believable as the serial killer. I would have approved any choice of the main four suspects being the killer in the end, as all four had motives, characteristics, and behavior that would lead you on to believe that they could be the killer. That's a rare achievement, and for that to take place in this film is mind-blowing considering the quality of the rest of the production. I say that as Zipperface is not a well-crafted film. It looks like crap, has awful acting, laughable characters, including the killer, terrible editing, dialogue, and directing. But here comes the twist. This is awful in the best way possible.
You've been a bad little slut.
Just like with several so bad it's good movies of its time, like Troll 2, Zipperface had a foreigner in the director's share on an American production. Those things do not always mix. If you've ever had a Troll 2 experience, then you would think that Claudio Fragasso would be the worst director ever, and while he does have other shitty films, he has also films that are crafted together nicely. Something seems to often crash on B-movies when a foreigner takes charge of an American production, and it has often delivered us with movies so bad and weird that you cannot help but to love them. And that's where Zipperface falls. I couldn't find much information regarding director Mansour Pourmand, but it seems like he came from Iran, did some small work in his home country in the 70s before he decided to make an American picture by producing and directing it himself. And Zipperface did actually achieve to get distribution through American International Pictures Home Video, who at the time flooded the market with low-budget genre films. Just like with Fragasso on Troll 2, Pourmand's lack of understanding of the genre he's working in gives us a final film that is unintentionally hilarious. Oh, and if you're wondering if Pourmand did anything after Zipperface, then the answer is actually yes. Another credit did pop up on his IMDb in 2010 as a director on the short film Aladdin's Untold Story. That's quite the transition from Zipperface, that's for sure. Let's talk a bit about the killer, the Zipperface himself or herself. Just look at this chunky, awkward guy. Whenever he pops up on the screen, you cannot help but start laughing at how ridiculous he looks, while I'm sure that the original intent was to make him look perverted and frightening. But it's hard to take someone like this serious when you even at one point have a girl kick him in the nuts cartoon style.
You can't fight me.
And the Leatherface mask is not all that original either, as we have seen this look before in giallo films, just not as cheap looking as this. I cannot quite figure out what their main purpose of having the leading role Lisa Ryder be a tough cop in a male-dominated world, when they go out of their way to make her make mistakes in the investigation, all due to love. They actually have her fall for one of the main suspects, a guy that has to restrain himself from choking her on their very first date. The guy reeks serial killer, and if there was a cologne made for murderers, then I'm sure he was wearing it. And yet, our young supposedly intelligent female cop is not able to see any of this, even if it is screaming right at her face. And yeah, there was 3 other suspects in the case, but they are more or less made into suspects with information that we as viewers see, not by what Ryder uncovers. Their romance is so awkward, poorly written, and forced that the result becomes laughable to watch. Oh, and it would be a crime if I didn't talk much about the Church of Prostitutes. Apparently these mean streets of this unknown city has so many prostitutes that a priest has been able to gather over hundreds of them to his church. Why and what part does this church take in the rest of the film? Hardly nothing at all. They had to have a place where the prostitutes would meet up for the detectives to hunt down one specific girl, so I guess a church was the best they could come up with. Now this is not the easiest movie to hunt down, but if you decide to do so, then be aware that there are 2 cuts floating around out there. The R-rated cut is missing all of the nudity and violence, and you certainly do not want to experience Zipperface without that stuff. It's not a very explicit movie, but the little violence we get is highly appreciated. Get the unrated copy, and I might add that it would be smart to get some beers and some funky smoke while you're at it, to get the best Zipperface experience possible. Zipperface has been dismissed misogynistic, offensive trash cinema, and it would be hard to argue against that if it wasn't for the fact that there is some cinema viewers out there that can look at poorly put together material like this and find humor in it. Zipperface got to that spot very quickly for me, and I had an absolute blast while watching the film. I actually wish that it would have spiked up the sleaze even more, as I found it a bit too tame on the exploitation factor. But that might say more about what I'm used to watching than the movie itself.
I mean, you can teach me a lesson.
Teach you. I'll teach you a lot. Bitch!
Zipperface is awful for most of the world, but if you are, like me, able to sit and laugh at movies like this, then Zipperface gets a recommendation. It is not a good movie, but it keeps you laughing and guessing who the serial killer will be. I am sure I'm setting a record of how high score this film has ever got, but I am following my B-movie loving heart and giving Zipperface the strong score of 3.5 out of 5. Am I the only one present in the Zipperface fan club? Or are there anyone else out there that want to come forward and share the love for this obscurity? Oh, and the next film I'm reviewing is an 80s supernatural slasher film from South Africa. Take a guess in the comment section below if you think you know the title to it. If you get the right one, you won't win anything, but hey, we're all here on YouTube to have fun, right? Subscribe and all of that stuff, and I hope to see you again on my next video. Thank you.